Alright everyone, we start off today with an analysis of the massacre at the aid convoy the other day in the Gaza Strip by IDF forces. There is nuance there. Again, disclaimer, not Team Palestine or Team Israel, so we're just going to sort of keep it real with regards to when we talk about issues related to that particular dust-up over there. Of course, 30,000 now dead, mostly civilians, very sad. You can think whatever you want about Hamas, Israel, the Holy Land, Palestine, the right of return from the river to the sea, etc. But we're going to get into some more meaningful analysis, actually. I've noticed that a lot of it has devolved into sloganeering, actually. People take up a hardline approach where they're either really pro-Israel or really pro-Palestine. And so the nuance is lost. It's like if you're really pro-Palestine, Hamas butchers 12 people, and the person will say, well, yeah, but the IDF has killed a lot more. Or you're really pro-Israel, and something like this happens, they'll say, well, you know, it was an unfortunate accident. The IDF killed over 100 people, about 112 at the latest count. Some are still in the hospital, so that toll may rise. And several hundred were actually injured. They were running a convoy over in the Gaza Strip. And it was guarded, of course, by soldiers because, you know, they're handing out aid to the Palestinian people, which is good. I mean, they need it at the moment. They're literally on the brink of famine in some parts of the Gaza Strip, actually. That was a report the other day. Famine is setting in. I have a feeling that cholera is going to set in at some point, too. People are going to be, out of necessity, drinking unclean water. You're going to get epidemic diarrhea, and a shit ton of people are going to end up shitting themselves to death. This is, by the way, unfortunately, one of the main casualty causers in war. Epidemic diarrhea. And most people don't even know about it. Some people don't even know cholera exists, so it's going to be an interesting time. It's not going to be pretty. And again, a lot of images from Hamas sympathetic groups too, by the way. Israel has lost the optics war. So what happened is they're rolling the aid convoy through Gaza, you know, just trying to give out food and shit. And they were pressed in on by a large crowd of Palestinians. Now, keep in mind, these people are starving. They don't have really any availability of food. There's no trade going on. They're entirely reliant upon aid from other countries. The U.S. is now optioning airdropped aid. Israel's running aid. UN is running aid. Various other activistic groups running aid. Food, water, medicine. The bare necessities to keep people basically on life support as the war crawls on. Link in the description. Archived, of course. The official Israeli explanation is that the aid convoy was converged on by a large group of people. The soldiers therefore reacted by firing warning shots. They did not wish to be impeded. The problem is now we're getting reports, and this is not from the Hamas health ministry or something like this. This is from outside international sources, that a significant proportion of the people that were killed or injured there have gunshot wounds. The Israeli explanation is they fired warning shots, and then there was a stampede. People panicked, and the people mainly crushed one another. They crushed one another trying to escape because they were afraid. They began to stampede. Some of these people indeed were killed or injured by that, and they were not shot, they were not killed by the IDF directly. But here's the problem. If I go into a crowded area and I decide to shoot somebody, because I think, for some odd reason, I just think they should be shot, and a stampede occurs, and people trying to get to the exits run over one another, and little kids are getting crushed, and people are getting injured, people are getting killed. What happens? Here's a dichotomous situation, a true dichotomy. A, I get charged with the original murder, perhaps, depending on the circumstance. I don't get charged with anything else. It's just one count of premeditated murder. That's nothing. I'll be out in 30 years, you know. With the rotating door justice system in the U.S., it might be 3 years these days, you know. At the very least, I didn't protest against kids gender transitioning or something like that. Holy hell, you get more time for that, that's for sure. Or B, assuming that the prosecutor is reasonably competent, do I get charged with all of those additional deaths and injuries? Well, the answer is B, again, if the prosecutor's not completely off his rocker, or very sympathetic and says, well, we'll get a plea deal for lesser included of manslaughter or something like that. You get in trouble for all of those additional deaths too. At the very least, you're civilly liable. Wrongful death. When the IDF opened fire on this group of people, they may have at the time thought it was justified. Shit, there's a bunch of people coming over here to the convoy. We're not going to be able to move forward or backward. We're going to be swamped. They're going to be pulling the aid off the trucks. And I mean, we can stand by or we can stand up and try to guard the convoy. But then they opened fire. The Israeli line is that they only fired warning shots, but that's not commensurate with the medical details that we're getting from third-party groups that are going to Al-Sharif and other hospitals. And actually, well, I think that's the only functional hospital, so probably not others, and looking at the wounds. Well, you either were shot or you weren't shot. It's fairly clear. It doesn't matter if you were firing a warning shot. If I fire a warning shot at somebody, let's say someone's trespassing on the property, I say, get the hell off my property, Eustace. And they refuse to get off the property. And I say, okay, I'm going to scare them off. And I fire a warning shot, but it tiddlywinks off a rock in the ground and hits him in the leg. Again, I'm still potentially liable for that. By the way, firing warning shots, legally not usually a good idea in most states. Don't fire warning shots. Shoot to kill or don't shoot at all. Don't aim the gun at anything you do not eminently intend to pull the trigger on. That's legally a problem. Boogie found that out the hard way years ago. You remember that? The heckler showed up at his home, and he fires his revolver in the air. That's not a good idea. No, for legal reasons, I encourage all clankers not to do things like that. Here's the other problem, though. Think what you will about Hamas, about the IDF being justified in guarding the aid convoy, etc., etc. At what point does Israel become completely responsible for the plight of everyone in Gaza, having effectively declared annexation, declared that there is no Palestinian governing authority that's going to be tolerated and that they will run the show? Israel is losing the optics war badly, and it's because of things like this. The convoy probably never should have been in that particular location at that time. The people of Gaza are beginning to starve. They're beginning to die of famine. They're beginning to waste away. If you dangle a steak in front of a starving dog, what the fuck do you think happens? Your hand might get nibbled on a little bit now in the process, now can't it? You drove truckloads of food through an area in Gaza which is beginning to experience famine. You had to have known that people were going to flock to it like sharks and go on a feeding frenzy because they're fucking starving. And considering the proportion of the population in Gaza that is comprised of children, some of these people there, they're not even grabbing the food for themselves. They're grabbing the food for their little boy or their little girl or something like that. And you drove food through an area filled with people that are starving. You're surprised when they flood over to the truck? I mean, the soldiers probably should have been warned, hey, if they go for the aid, just fucking stand off to the side, let them raid the aid truck, form a defensive perimeter so that you're safe, and then, you know, that's the end of it. Let them have the goddamn food. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. There are people out there with a non-nuanced approach to this that are either 100% Team Gaza or 100% Team Israel, and no matter what Hamas does or whatever the IDF does, they refuse to criticize it. In the end, in their cognitive dissonance-addled minds, any and all things are justified because either you're fighting against the evil colonialists that have annexed your land, or you're fighting against the evil imperialists or something like that. Or you're fighting against terrorists, and so it's okay if civilians die. This is a massacre. Over 100 people were killed. A lot of them were shot. Whether they died of the gunshots or got trampled as well remains to be seen. You're going to have to wait for more autopsies because there's still 100 injured people being treated. Not all of them will survive. With the medical care level in Gaza being a little bit hit or miss right now, fucking wound sepsis will be a problem. And again, epidemic cholera and things of that nature. I suppose Israel doesn't have too much to worry about, though. If they can continue this on long enough, half of Gaza will die of natural causes. Well, they won't be natural causes. They'll still be inflicted deaths, but it won't be because of gunshots and bombs and stuff like that. It'll be people literally shitting themselves to death. Or simply passing out in a ditch and dying and falling into a coma because they haven't eaten in 10 days or something like that. It's a very sad situation. It's understandable that Israel had to respond to the Hamas incursion. At what point, though, does it become so lopsided that it's no longer possibly able to be justified? That's an open-ended question. That's about all. Peace out.